right, Bruchma Boim, everybody. Today, B'ziyada D'Shmaya, we'll talk about the thing that I've been mentioning all the time, and I never actually talk about it, which is what Noahides can actually study. If because there's there's a lot. The Torah is like the infinite will of Hashem, right? His infinite wisdom. So it's what do you even do with that, right? That's just for a Jew. So especially a non-Jew who's more than half of it's not even relevant to you, right? So that's the big question. And certainly there are things that are prohibited for a non-Jew to learn. So we're gonna tackle that today, God willing, and it's gonna be not so thick material. Not that any of my material is pretty thick or anything, but I just have two things I want to show you, and I will share the screen. So if you're watching on YouTube, you need to get in the Zoom, and if you want to see the stuff. So I'm going to share a letter from the Rebbe, and then I'm going to share a Gemara that talks about the Noahide laws. Let's see here if I can share my screen. Yes. Okay. Perfect. So this is a letter from the Rebbe. Someone was asking him basically I'm not Jewish, but I want to study Torah. What do I do? What do I do in this situation? So he says, greeting and blessing. This is to acknowledge receipt now of your letter of the 1st of Iyar, in which you write about your desire to learn Torah, though you are not Jewish. I trust you know that the Torah itself has instructions as to the approach in such a situation. This is that the Torah, and in a broader sense, it includes not only the written Torah, but also the oral Torah, the Talmud, contains parts which are in order to be studied by Gentiles, namely those that deal with the so-called 7 Noahide laws, in all their ramifications and details, which are incumbent upon all human beings, both Jew and Gentile. On the other hand, why do rabbis always have two hands? Try to find a rabbi with one hand, right? On the other hand, there's other parts of the Torah which are of no relevance to Gentiles, and for various reasons, Gentiles should not be encouraged to take time out to study them. Time that they can use to better and practical advantage. Time that they can use to better and practical advantage by studying, practicing, and promoting the said 7 Noahide laws. In light of the above, I suggest that you should personally discuss the matter with a competent Orthodox rabbi, to ask your local Orthodox rabbi, basically, who orally could explain the above more fully. Whoops. And at the same time provide you with guidance as to how to go about your study of Torah. I would like to add a further point, which I trust you know, that from the Torah viewpoint, there is no need whatever for a Gentile to convert to Judaism in order to achieve fulfillment in accordance with the design of the Creator. On the contrary, Jews are required to discourage a would-be convert from the idea of conversion, which could also be further explained to you by the rabbi you consult with. I take this opportunity, inasmuch as Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, is a day of divine judgment pertaining to all peoples and nations, to extend you prayerful wishes for success in the new year with blessing, Menachem Mendel Schneerson. That's a very that's the perfect answer, basically. I mean, any competent rabbi will tell you the same exact thing, Chabad or not. Anyone will tell you this same exact thing. And I am going to bring a Gemara that explains this in more detail, kind of gives more of a background as to exactly why this is the case. Because admittedly, at first, and I'd also like to share some anecdotal stuff, how I kind of had to deal with this. But the Gemara explains pretty clearly why it's off limits, So, does anyone have any questions about that, or comments, feelings, whatever? Okay, so I want to go to the Y'all can still see this, right? Yeah, okay. So Sanhedrin 59a. Now, like, this is oral Torah, right? So this is like something that will typically be like off limits for non-Jews to learn. Um, Pretty much anything written, like the Chumash, as I was explaining last week. Chumash is fine because it's like written Torah and it's basically like public knowledge, right? But the Gemara, the Talmud, like that's not what we would like consider like public knowledge. That's like oral Torah, that's tradition, that's Masorah, and we're gonna go into that a little bit here. But the if you want to know anything about like Noahide laws, ironically, you find it in the Talmud because that's like where they're listed. Because if you read the Torah, you go through the whole like you can go through the whole Chumash, you'll never find anywhere like even in Parshas Noach, like there's no time where Hashem is just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like it doesn't happen that way, but they are from the Torah, and the way we get these laws is through a drush, like essentially, like the rabbis will bring sources from the Torah and say like because of this, that's how we know this also applies to non-Jews, and that's exactly what this Gemara is about right now. So 59a says the Gemara challenges. So let me like go back because the page, it's like all one continuous thing. So like the page numbers will like cut right in the middle of like a conversation. Let's see, where is a good place to start? Yeah, don't keep Shabbos, y'all. Bad news bears. Yeah, I guess I can start here. So basically, they're talking about like what Noahides can do, what they cannot do, and then the Gemara is explaining that when you count the 7 mitzvot, like when you count the 7 mitzvot, you're only counting the prohibitions. You're not. There is no real mitzvah to do anything besides like create courts of law, which, as I explained, I think in a previous class, that's not a mitzvah in itself. That's like that. The only reason that's there is to enforce the other 6 laws, right? So it's not like a standalone thing. The other 6 are standalone mitzvahs that are prohibitions. It's like not what you do, what you don't do, right? Basically, all I'd say. So the Gemara challenges, but the mitzvah of establishing courts of judgment is a mitzvah to stand up and take action, and nevertheless he counts it among the 7 mitzvot. The Gemara answers, this mitzvah contains a requirement to stand up and take action, i.e. the obligation to establish courts and carry out justice. And it also contains a requirement to sit and refrain from action, i.e. the prohibition against doing injustice. And this is pretty much the summary of the other 6 mitzvahs, right? Like the other 6 mitzvahs are literally all about refraining from doing injustice. So it goes on to say, Rabbi Yochanan says, a Gentile who engages in Torah study is liable to receive the death penalty, as it is stated. Moses commanded us a law, Torah, an inheritance of the congregation of Jacob. And this pasuk here, like every child, this is the first pasuk that you teach a child as soon as he learns how to speak or read. Torah siva lanu Moshe Moasha Kehilat Yaakov. And we're not, I mean, like, Noahides, that's not Kehilat Yaakov. That's not the congregation of Jacob. You know what I mean? So this is what Rabbi Yochanan is saying, like, well, it clearly says here it's for the congregation of Jacob, so what gives? Like, what's the big deal? As it says right here, like, indicating that it is an inheritance for us and not for them. But the Gemara, and I will say, like, I read this and I literally just, like, stopped right there. I remember reading this like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Like I was kind of still early on in my journey, didn't really know what was going on, and I was kind of like asking like this guy who wrote to the Rebbe, like, I'm not Jewish, I want to study Torah, like what do I do? So I'm just watching shiurim on YouTube and whatever, and I remember watching a shiur, and the rabbi said that if you want to learn about the Noahide laws, like it's in Tractate Sanhedrin, and he gave like the the citation, and so I started reading, and it's like, oh, fine and well, until I get to this point, right? And it's like a Gentile who engages in Torah study is chayv mitah, and I'm like, what? I mean, it's Rabbi Yochanan, like what? Like Rabbi Yochanan, like I'm not gonna fight Rabbi Yochanan on this, right? Like, come on. So I literally just like stopped it, closed Safari. I was like, I'm never studying Torah again. Like I'm done. Like, right. So for like the next, I don't know, I think I lasted like 2 days, and I was trying to do just like a bunch of nonsense, like just like waste time because I don't know what else to do. And eventually I was like, I can't take it anymore, right? Like I need to figure out what's going on. And so I went back to this. Oops, excuse me. I don't want that. So I went back to this, and I was like, well, I have to just like figure out what's going on here. And so I kept reading, and this is the best part about like studying Torah, and even like in the realm of like the Noahide laws, is like you have to keep reading. Like you can't do that what I did because you'll never learn anything like that. You can't just find something that like is scary or offensive or like socially reprehensible or like anything like whatever the case may be. Like chances are, if it's making you feel weird, right? Like it means it's working. Like it's doing its job. It reminds me of this campaign I saw on the news one time. Not that we should be watching the news, but like I saw in the news that somewhere, I think in like Florida or some Bible Belt state, they were trying to like ban To Kill a Mockingbird from public schools because of the foul language and like the racist like themes. And it's like, dog, that's what the book is about. Like that, like it's supposed to make you feel bad, man. Like that's the whole point. Like what? Like okay, anyway, so like the same thing can be applied to Torah. Is like if you read something and it's like, wow, that's like, I don't know about that, or like I don't like, okay, good. Like it means you're you're paying attention. So keep that in mind, and like that'll make sense when I keep reading, because it'll just like blow your mind. So the Gemara challenges Rabbi Yochanan, says, but if so, let the Tana count this prohibition among the 7 Noahide mitzvot. The Gemara explains, according to the one who says that the verse is referring to the Torah as an inheritance, this prohibition is included in the prohibition of robbery. Very interesting way to put it. As a Gentile who studies Torah robs the Jewish people of it. According to the one who says that the verse is referring to the Torah as betrothed, as the spelling of the Hebrew word for betrothed, meorasa, is similar to that of the word for inheritance, morasha. That's from the pasuk that I just read before. The punishment of a Gentile who studies Torah is like that of one who engages in intercourse with a betrothed young woman, which is execution by stoning. And just so you know, like that's the only punishment for a Noahide. Don't expect anything else. You're done. Yeah, because as we're gonna learn, right? Like you're not you're only, Hashem is only asking you to like not burn the place down, right? So if you can't do that, like get out. Like that's basically what it is. Like if you're eating live animals, I don't know what to tell you. So it continues. Gemara raises an objection to Rabbi Yochanan's statement from a Baraita. So the Baraita, there's different like levels. So this doesn't matter so much, but it will matter in the future as we keep going. So there's Mishnah, which is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi compiled the Mishnah, which is like the first writing down of the oral Torah. And he wrote it down because he was afraid of it being lost. But there's these things called Baraitot, or a Baraita, or Baraisa if you're Ashkenazi. And basically that's Mishnah level authority, but it's not written down. It's still like in this like state of being transmitted orally, right? So, but just know that whenever it says Baraita, like that's law. Like it's or it has the status of a Mishnah, in other words. So it says, Gemara is an objection to Rabbi Yochanan's statement from Baraita. Rabbi Meir would say, from where is it derived that even a Gentile who engages in Torah study is considered like a high priest? What? So like, okay, he's Chayiv Mita, now he's a high priest. What's going on? Let's find out. It is derived from that which is stated. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my ordinances, which if a man does, he shall live by them. The phrase, which if priests, Levites, and Israelites do, they shall live by them, is not stated, but rather a man, which right here, it says right there, Ve'Israelim lo nemar ele ha'adam. So like that's the key word right there. Adam does not mean a man as opposed to a woman. It means like a human being, right? So that's you, right? That's you. So you can. It's talking about you right now. So as a man. So which includes mankind in general. I'm just gonna leave that there because it keeps doing that. You have therefore learned that even a Gentile who engages in Torah study is considered like a high priest. All right, and this is like the qualification here, like a legal disclaimer. I have to say this. The Gemara answers there in the Baraita the references to a Gentile who engages in the study of their 7 mitzvot. It is a mitzvah for a Gentile to study the halachot that pertain to the 7 noachei mitzvot, and when he does so, he is highly regarded. Okay, so does that make sense there? Is that clear? Does that make sense?
So if I could comment. So yeah, I think I understand it, but I guess it's a whole very broad and open discussion as to the halachot that apply to the 7 mitzvot, right? That's a lifetime of study. We're like, which ones are they talking about?
Right. Yeah. So that's the point, and that topic there, like what those things are, that's permitted for you to learn, and that's like essentially the whole purpose of this course is to like do just that, is to learn those things. And it even says right here, the Baraita that lists the 7 noachei mitzvot is from 56a. So we could go back to 56a, and we can find like the list, right? But as you can see, we're already on 59a, and there's already disagreements and discussions about exactly what they are. Basically, there's it's not that there's a disagreement on what is prohibited. It's like what is the category, right? It's like what falls into which category. Does that make any sense? Okay. Any questions so far? Like, is this okay? Like, yeah. So let's see. Let's go. There's just for the sake of fun. Let's see. 56a. Where did you find it? Well, let me go the long way then. Fine. Taking the short, long way. Boom, boom, boom. This is how you navigate Safari, by the way. It's really cool. 56a. Let's see what it says. Blah blah blah. That's okay. Okay. So here's another one that's like kind of. Wait, let me point something else out. I saw it. So right here, here's like a interesting thing. This term I'm highlighting right now, Havdei Kochavim, that means literally like idol worshippers. Like Avdei is worshippers and Kochavim is the stars. So when it talks about, I'm sure you've heard like terms like Bishul Akum, or like Akum is like referred to like a Gentile in Talmud. And if you haven't heard it, you're hearing it now. That means like they worship the stars, and like if you're in this class, probably you're not in that category. So this also like that also kind of begs another question. It's like, well, I'm not an idol worshiper. Like I'm trying to keep the 7 mitzvot b'nei Noach. Like, what does that mean for me? But we'll find that this is largely just like what they call Noahides, because in this, or this is what they call non-Jews, because at the time of the Gemara, like there wasn't really such thing as like secular culture, right? Like you either were a Jew or you were an idol worshiper. There was kind of no real like in between. So this is a perfect example of how like Chazal, like our sages, bring out from a verse that is not like there's no list in the Torah, but they're all in the Torah. All the 7 mitzvot are in the Torah. For example, it says, "Anyone who curses his God shall bear his sin," and the sages point out that it says right here, "Ish ish." So like, why does it say man twice? Like, and there's a lot of times in the Torah that there's like repetitions, I like emphasis, and they all like have different meanings, and we can like learn about that in the future. But it says, why one ish who curses God? Why must the verse state anyone, meaning like ish ish? It says to include Gentiles who are prohibited from blessing, i.e. cursing the name of God, just like the Jews are, and they are executed for this transgression by the sword alone, as all death penalties stated with regard to the descendants of Noah are by the sword alone. So basically it's saying that like there's no, by a Jew, like you bring a korban, or you like they fine you, or you get lashes, you get there's a whole like gamut of different punishments in the Torah that for different sorts of transgressions, and basically saying like you only have like there's none of that, like your mitzvahs are so simple that if you break them, like there's no working with you. Yeah, it even says like this verse concerns Adam, which is the first man, and is therefore binding on all of humanity. And then Rav Yitzhak Napacha, I guess his name, it says it's only talking about Gentiles, and this is also the opinion of Rabbi Meir. And okay, it's going into details like what. Okay, like do you actually, have like what does that mean? Like, because Hashem you can say Hashem, or you can say like God, right? In your vernacular tongue, like whatever language you speak, there's like different words for like God. Or like is it saying like the actual name of Hashem, like the tetragrammaton, right? And basically the conclusion is saying, so if you use the tetragrammaton, that's death. But if you use God's name in vain any other way, or you curse, using God's name, then you just receive lashes. We actually should go through each of these. I'm gonna actually do that next time. This is actually a really good, this is really juicy stuff. Yeah, to the convert as well as the homeborn, which means like it doesn't matter, like you're a Jew, you're a Jew. So okay, any questions, y'all? This didn't take as long as I thought. I don't know. Okay. Here's the actual list, right? Halachot. Since the halachot of the descendants of Noah have been mentioned, a full discussion of Noach and mitzvot is presented. The sages taught in a Baraita, the descendants of Noach, i.e. all of humanity, were commanded to observe 7 mitzvot. The mitzvah of establishing courts of judgment. It's interesting that they put that first, because what's judgment? Like, what's justice? You don't know until you read the rest of the list. Okay? And the prohibition against blessing, i.e., cursing the name of God, which we just talked about. The prohibition of idol worship, prohibition against forbidden sexual relations, the prohibition of bloodshed, and the prohibition of robbery, and the prohibition against eating a limb from a living animal. And then Rabbi Hanania ben Gamla talks about, is it like blood? What does that mean? They're also like castrating an animal, right? Like also a reason like a lot of more religious Jewish families don't have pets because there's so many like problems with animals. Not just like right off the bat, like you can't castrate a living animal. You can't render an animal infertile, including yourself, including a human being. But also with laws of Shabbat, which are not in the scope of this course, but just like it's crazy. That's a whole other thing. Sorcery, right? You don't play with rocks, basically. Tarot cards. And I say this because you don't think, right? You think, okay, I don't go to church, Mazel Tov, but like you got, yeah, other stuff going on. It's the same. Like in terms of like halacha in the eyes of Jewish law, there's no distinction. It's just like maybe the Christian theology implicates Judaism, and it's a little bit more like gross. But yeah, the other stuff is just as right. Fire, like don't pass your son or daughter through the fire, which is kind of like random. Like why would you do that? But like in the times of the Torah, there was an avodah zarah. I don't. And it doesn't say what it's called. I forget what it's called. It's like molech or something like that, where part of the avodah zarah was actually like taking your kid, and I don't quite understand it, but either they literally burned them, or they just like pass them over a fire, not so they get burned, but so they just like graze the fire. I don't know, but either way, like don't do this. A diviner, that means like someone who can predict the future, like a prophet or something like that. A soothsayer, an enchanter, a warlock, a charmer, like any of these like crazy things. Psychics, mediums, faith healers, you name it, like people who speak in tongues, like all this stuff. Necromancers, sorcerers, magicians, people who make potions, and like snake oil, medicine men, like these kinds of things. This is like much more than just like a scam. It's not just a scam, it's literal idol worship. And here's also another verse that's like very, very important from Deuteronomy. This right here. Evidently, the Canaanites were punished for these practices, and since God would not have punished them for an action unless He first prohibited it, these practices are clearly prohibited to Gentiles. So, again, like while there is no list, like if you just understand the concept of what the Torah is trying to get at, and then you see like Hashem is destroying the world for this reason, that reason, that's how those are prohibited things. So if you decide, which you decide to go and study Tanakh or study the Torah, and you're going along, and you see like Hashem smites these people, or they like killed all these people. And that's because they were doing something wrong, not like even by their own standards, right? Like not even by like the standard of a Jew, right? So if you think of like the flood, right? It says in the Rashi that they were liable for a lot of things. They were liable for, namely, like idol worship and sexual immorality. But the thing that really tipped the scale was robbery, because again, back to the thing we first started, like the whole basis for these Noahide laws is to preserve justice, right, and to avoid injustice, right? And so like idol worship, sexual immorality, like you could almost argue like, okay, like, right, that's between you and Hashem, and like this is kind of a modern right, we like to say this, right, like right? It's like, oh, okay, well, it's none of my business. I mean, it kind of isn't, but like, yeah, you say, oh, that's between you and Hashem. But robbery necessarily involves two or more people, right? This is like a problem with society. So it's hard to just say like, oh, that's between you and Hashem. Like, no, Dafka isn't. Like, it specifically isn't between, like, it's between you and your fellow man, and you're basically ripping the fabric of society to shreds by doing those things. So like, we'll kill you. Um, Also, in the case of Shechem, after Dinah gets violated by Shechem, Shimon and Levi go and they murder everybody, and Yaakov ends up getting mad at him, and or both of them, and are like, "What did you do?" And the reason is like it's a very deep topic, and like maybe someone more qualified can go into that. But basically, the thing is like Shimon and Levi weren't idiots. Okay, like all the shvatim, like the 12 tribes, all the 12 tribes had prophecy, and so they knew they understood Torah. Like, listen, if you're if my dad was Yaakov Avinu, like I would know, I would be pretty versed in the Torah. So like you can imagine Shimon and Levi knew that because they violated a Noahide law, or because Shechem violated a Noahide law, and because the rest of the city stood idly by and did nothing, then they calculated on their own, like, oh, they're liable for the death penalty, so we could just kill them. Yaakov says no. Like, you forgot the sixth Noahide law, which is like to establish courts of law. Like, you're not a court of law. You're like you're a couple of vigilantes. We don't do that. Now everyone's gonna say like, see the Jews. They see what they do. Like, look at them. They're violent. They do this. They do that. Like same thing. Nothing new under the sun. That's why he gets mad. It's not because like they were wrong. They were right. They were right. Like they did deserve to die. But it's like, bro, like you could just take them to court and they'd die anyway. Like there's no need to do all this. Yeah, that's basically it. I hope like next week, Bezrat Hashem, I will like pick one thing and we'll just like read about that. I think we did Avodah Zarah, we did Gilui Arayot, and I think maybe a next one could be like robbery, because that one's really deep, because you think, oh, I'm just not gonna steal. Like, yeah, I mean, that's obvious. Like, you're not gonna rob a bank. Okay, fine. Like, you're not gonna literally like pickpocket someone. Yeah, like that's more obvious. But like, like, did you get under like, or did someone give you like more change, right? Like, or like, did you steal a pen? Like these little things. Like, did you steal a pen from work? Like, did you not return it? Like the little things that it's like, what difference does it make? It's just this. It's just that. No, it's just like, it's literally robbery. It's literally usher in the Torah. So, so like, really talk about all that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I got 5 minutes left on the Zoom. If anyone has any questions or complaints or comments. Going once. Going twice. Okay. Well, I'm going to cut out a little early if no one else has anything. But yeah, thanks for showing up. It's always a pleasure. Appreciate the claps, Vilma. And I'll see y'all next week. B'ezrat Hashem. What's up, Israel?
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, everyone. Good Shabbos.
Thank you, Ari.
Peace.